Hi everyone, this is going to be a very quick video. I want to respond to a comment that was just left on my channel page. It's a comment from a guy named John Rayner, at least that's what he calls himself. He's a theist, and he seems like, just judging from this comment, he seems like a straight up nice guy who just wants to ask a question. So I figured, you know what, I could respond in a comment, or I could make a video out of it where I am uncharacteristically nice, and I figured I should probably do that because it's been a while since I did that. Okay, I'm gonna read it today. I've been thinking of something and I'd like your opinion of it. Please note the following idea is original, and if someone else has thought of it and addressed it, please let me know. Okay, yes, many people have thought of it and addressed it. I'll get back to that. So the idea is about God, note I'm a theist, and his existence. This all stems back to me talking with my atheist friend. We traced the history of the universe down to dark matter. I'll come back to that. I asked where dark matter came from, and he didn't know. I couldn't find an answer, and if it did stem from something, what made that happen? I think that's the influence of a higher power. So in short, if we cannot create or destroy matter or energy, where did it stem from in the beginning? Okay. I'm gonna take a wild shot here, John. You are pretty young, right? I'm gonna guess mid-teens tops, or at least you have, and please try not to be offended by this, but you have the equivalent education of a mid-teen, early mid-teen, something like that. That's kind of what I get when I read this, because first of all, the physics is, no offense, I'm sorry, there's no better way of putting it. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm not trying to piss you off here. I'm just saying you clearly don't know a lot about physics, at least not as it relates to this stuff. But that's okay. But you also make an argument for the existence of God, thinking that it might be an original argument. And it's actually one of the oldest arguments in the book. It's called the cosmological argument. It's just a variation of it. The cosmological argument, when it all comes down to it, is the universe began to exist. Okay, so what created the universe? Well, something must have. We're going to call that God, and assume that it had a kid who got nailed to a cross and all that stuff. Because, you know, if it's God, then it must be that God. It can't be any other God. And it can't be just that we have applied the word God to something unintelligent that just happened to be the cause of the universe. No. It can't be that. So it's a terrible argument. I'm sorry, but it is. I'm going to try really quickly to explain the things that are wrong here. But before I go, I really do appreciate you asking this as a question instead of just asserting, here's how it is. Because that's what most theists do, at least most theists that talk to atheists, most theists who try to leave comments on my channel, you know. Anyway, where do I begin? We traced the history of the universe down to dark matter. Okay, dark matter has nothing to do with the history of the universe. Dark matter is nothing more than matter a form of matter that only interacts gravitationally. It doesn't interact electromagnetically, which means it doesn't reflect or emit light, which is why it's called dark. So this is a phenomenon that we know that about 90% of the matter in the universe is dark matter. At least that's what the math tells us. Because we can calculate the mass of the universe that we see, and we can calculate the total mass, and there's a huge discrepancy there. And we attribute that to something that we call dark matter. And we don't know exactly what it is at this point. But what we do know is that it has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Excuse me. This is actually not booze, by the way, this is just coffee. Not Irish coffee, kitsch. We cannot create or destroy matter or energy. Where did it come from in the beginning? Well, that's another issue. We can definitely create and destroy matter. There's this thing called paraproduction, where energy becomes matter, and there's this thing called matter-antimatter annihilation, where matter and antimatter collide and go away, leaving only energy. But the total energy, if you count matter as a form of energy, which you should, then the total energy of the universe is constant, at least it appears that way. So where did the energy come from? Well, the answer is going to sound really weird if you haven't heard this stuff, and I'm assuming you haven't. The total energy of the universe is actually zero. At least that's what the calculations indicate, because there is such a thing as negative energy. And the negative energy is stored gravitationally, and it's also in the expansion of space. The potential energy decreases as the universe gets bigger, and if we say that the 0 point is at the Big Bang, which makes sense, then we find that the total energy of the universe hasn't changed since then, so it's still zero. So there's no need for something to create the energy, but there is a need, and I will grant you this, to explain the Big Bang. How did it happen? What caused it? And the answer is, right now, we don't know. This is something that you get to. He didn't know. I couldn't find an answer, and if it did stem from something, what made that happen? So yes, there's this infinite regression. Something caused something, something caused something, something caused something. And then you go, well, I think there's a higher power involved here. And that's a very intuitive form of reasoning. But let me ask you this. Where did that higher power come from? What caused that higher power to begin to exist? The standard answer that theists give is, oh, that higher power didn't need to begin to exist. It was always there. And then I'm wondering, why couldn't the thing that caused the universe, that we don't know what it is, why couldn't that be eternal? Why did that need to begin? So no, this is not a new argument by any means. You could look up the Kalam cosmological argument. That's the most popular version of it. You can find the argument presented by William Lane Craig, famous apologist. You can also find refutations of it. Well, basically you can find more refutations of it than you can find places presenting the argument, I think, because it's crap. See ya.